a country that is known for its vibrant democracy and economic potential, yet beneath the surface, a current struggle of unmet promises, people yearning for a better life. But trust, just like patience, it has its own limit. We've been told to always to wait, but for how long are we going to wait when the cost of living keeps on rising and the promises remain just like that?
Kenya's political history is characterized by protests dating to the one-party autocracy and before. Since protests are constitutionally provided for, they are necessary once the government stubbornly refuses to heed popular demands and turns rogue. Protests are a form of direct democracy through which the people exercise sovereignty by passing ineffectual and corruption representatives. These Gen Z-led protests are distinct. Before, protests in Kenya were narrow and served allied interests. A year after the 2022 elections, the opposition held protests over the high cost of living and disputed elections. On these and previous occasions, however, the protests fizzled out after the opposition politicians were co-opted in the government.
Today we delve into a pivotal chapter of Kenya's recent history, the Maandamano protest. It is a story of a nation grappling with challenges and of its people's powerful demand for change. This isn't just news from the past. It's a living story. A story of how economic hardship has pushed the ordinary Kenyan to the streets to seek for solutions that were long overdue. This is not just a protest, but a demonstration of justice and democracy for the future. The love of a country that will guarantee growth and success for our future tomorrow.
While Kenya has a long history of politically charged demonstrations, what set the Gen Z protests apart are their unique energy and immediacy. Mobilized primarily through digital platforms, thousands stepped into the streets, often for the first time, driven not by political party loyalties but by shared frustrations over unfulfilled promises and mounting hardships. Unlike past demonstrations that faded with elite negotiations, this movement was decentralized and leaderless, making it less vulnerable to co-optation. The protesters' demand resonated across generational and socio-economic lines, signaling a shift, a bold youthful assertion that the status quo can no longer ignore the voice of a new generation demanding change.
The recent protest in Kenya referred to as the Gen Z protest that kicked off on the 18th of June 2024 with worldwide mobilization mostly driven by social media has led to the start of a revolution that has continued to transverse up to this time. The youth-led movement #RejectFinance Bill held its protest calling for the scrapping of tax-laden legislation. The protesters, who were peaceful, were however met with police brutality. President William Ruto, elected in 2022, pledged to end the culture of police brutality, but the Kenyan police persist in excessive use of force against citizens under his tenure. President Ruto, during a press conference following the storming of Parliament, defended police when accused of atrocities and labeled the protesting youth as criminals liable for treason. He contested that the police shot protesters extrajudicially, maimed others, and disappeared more through abductions. Yet balaclava-clad armed individuals have continued to abduct youth and other Kenyans in broad daylight. Further, President Ruto ordered soldiers onto the streets of Nairobi and across the country, primarily to restore law and order.
From the 20th of June to the 27th, there was a nationwide protest that ensued the country. These protests were referred to as the 27 Days of Red. This was driven by outrage over tax hikes and police brutality. And on the 25th of June of 2024, protests escalated into chaos, which drove people into parliament, resulting in lives lost, extensive injuries, and the building being burned. The finance bill was officially withdrawn by the President, His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, but still
The Finance Bill 2024 was meant to anchor the government's revenue collection and reduce external borrowing that has sunk Kenya into massive debt. However, through social media and other channels, Kenyans of all walks of life expressed outrage at the punitive taxes proposed under the bill, yet there is no accountability for endemic corruption and wasted by the government. Furthermore, Kenyans decry high taxes amid dwindling income, joblessness, and ostentatious living by the political elite. Despite spirited opposition, the bill went through the first and the second reading and was eventually passed while protests were raging outside Parliament. So enraged by the protesters that they stormed the Parliament buildings and forced the MPs to scamper for safety. Upon realizing that he was fast losing the political initiative, President William Ruto declined to assent to the bill.
Since then, the country has been under pressure. Due to the policies being passed, the government is handling funds, promises continuing to remain unmet, and the common wananchi being the one to bear the pain. Hence, the country has turned into an unpleasant place to be. For the second time, in 2025, there was a second wave after the death of blogger Albert Omondi Ojwang. There have been cases of people being abducted or even arrested and later on found dead. But his story was quite different. On 9th June 2025, youth-led demonstrations erupted alongside lingering anger over living cost, corruption, and police brutality.
How much is enough? And I'm telling you, muliguza damu mbaya ya Albert Ojwang. Niko hapa, I don't know Albert Ojwang. Niko hapa talking mimi kama mimi. Nimetoka Kitengela, nimekuja hapa. I'm from Kitengela.
On the first anniversary of the 2024 Finance Bill protest that took place on 25th June of 2025, nationwide rallies took place in 25 counties. This led to 8 deaths and over 400,000 injuries with live ammunition from the police. The government seemed unresponsive to adults.
On the 7th of July, the well-known Sabasaba Day sparked another unrest for the Gen Zs as they marched for government reforms, the day which is meant to commemorate the 1990 pro-democracy movement resulted in at least 31 people being killed and a dozen injured in Nairobi and across the country as security forces cracked down. The Gen Z protests exposed the growing gulf between Kenya's leaders and its youth, but also the profound risks young Kenyans are willing to take for change. Despite fears for their safety, thousands many seeing no future under soaring unemployment and relentless pricing hikes marched peacefully, demanding a government that will listen.
Kenya's history has been permanently changed by the Gen Z's protest, a wake-up call with effects reaching far beyond city streets and hashtags, driven by wrath but directed by optimism. Their bravery made our country confront its future. It became evident as tear gas disappeared and voices resounded on and off that this movement aimed to recover authority from a remote elite and demand responsibility rather than just about taxes. The idea of a fair, inclusive Kenya remains alive, kept burning by those who dare to stand up, speak out, and see a nation where every voice really matters. The message has a new generation is not willing to be quiet, and that dream of a just, inclusive Kenya remains alive, kept alight by those who dare to stand up, speak out, and see a country where every voice really matters.